Welcome to the Profitable NDIS Provider Podcast, where we're joined by your hosts, Tania Gomez and Paul Bryan. In each episode, we'll be sharing valuable insights and tips to help you turn your NDIS business into a profitable venture. So whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, you've come to the right place. Let's stop surviving and start thriving.
Welcome back to the Profitable NDIS Provider. My name is Tania and I'm joined by my amazing co-host Paul. Hey Paul, how you going?
I'm really good, Tania, and we've made it to the end of another year of our podcast.
We have episode 55.
This is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I know. When we started, I never thought we would get 55 episodes. That's pretty amazing, if you ask me. And thank you to everyone who's listened, because I really would have never thought that someone would have wanted to listen to me talk for 55 episodes of anything.
You know what? We've had such good feedback from so many different people in so many different areas inside of NDIS and aged care. And we've had some amazing speakers over the last 55 episodes and even this year. We should go back and have a bit of a look and see what our highlights were from this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we go back to the beginning of this year, we kind of had a little bit of a break this year. But in season 4, which was the beginning of this year, we did some episodes around what do participants want from providers. We did some episodes on SIL, ILO, STA, and MTA explained. We had the wonderful case study with Yasser Zaki on the innovations and business diversification of TLC. We talked to Resolve about how rostering and claiming efficiencies can save a ton of cash. We also talked to Sarah Broad from Nurse Next Door about the realities of owning a franchise in the NDIS space. They were kind of some of the episodes in season 4. And then season 5, the second half of this year, we talked about should I register now, an update from our first season. In the ever-changing and shifting registration landscape.
100%.
You and I talked about adapting and pivoting NDIS businesses and also leading through change. We had Jackson and Tommy from Inclusive AF join us to talk about Inclusive AF. And we also talked to Ben from Able Minds about supported employment. And a wonderful episode just recently with Monique from Diversity Models about their business and business model and why representation of people with disability is so important. And I think one of my favorites also was one about the NDIA payment delay ruling with the lawyer who represented the provider against the NDIA and won that case. So I don't know about you, but I've learned a whole ton this season and this year about the NDIS landscape, talking to some amazing and really interesting people. And for me, I guess that's the highlight is to continue learning and growing my knowledge base in this space, talking to some amazing, knowledgeable people about what makes them excited and passionate in the space, and being able to share that knowledge with everybody else.
Yeah, I think that I hear so many times from people that say, "Oh, Paul, Tania, the episodes are great. I learned so much." I want you guys to know, like, we get guests on and I learn so much. I love having conversations in these sort of areas where we're finding out what people are doing that's a bit different, how people are managing the NDIS. One of my favorite episodes you brought up just before was actually talking again, like just around those the lawsuits that have happened inside the NDIS and what changes that has sort of sparked. And I've got to say, probably hands down, one of my favorite episodes from this last season just gone was actually with Tommy and Jackson from Inclusive AS. It was a brilliant episode, learning about what they're doing in the space. What's one of the favorite episodes that you've had, Tania?
Oh, so many. I love Tommy Trout. Obviously, I'm the head of the Tommy Trout fan club, if you don't know that already. And meeting Jackson for the first time was obviously a highlight. So yes, that was amazing. anytime I talk to Yasser Zaki from TLC, I'm inspired.
100%. Yeah.
So his episode was amazing. I feel, one of my highlights from the last 12 months is that I met Yasser at the November 23 One Community
Yep.
Awards night dinner, the one that you got sick, Paul, and you didn't get to come and meet him with me.
I didn't.
And it's been more than 12 months now that I've been, and I will call him a friend because we talk often, and he's now a client. I've helped a number of his businesses through the audit process, and so I feel like a highlight of my last 12 months was getting to be within his circle. That idea of proximity to power, and he's just the most lovely, humble, kind, generous person you'll ever meet, who really is mission driven. And anytime I get to talk to him, I feel really lucky. So I would have to say one of his episodes will always be my favorite. And listening to him for 3 times at the SIL Summit talk about his strategy this year,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
here is red ocean, blue ocean methodology. Every time I heard it, I learned something from it. And he was quizzing me afterward. I saw him afterwards and he was quizzing me about it, and I was asking him questions. He's like, wow, you really listened. I was like, I listened to every word. Like all the other speakers, I was like trying to concentrate on, are they staying to time? Is the room okay? I'll, focus on all of those things. But with him, I got completely tranced and watched every second of it, and had to remind myself I was actually at work and not a participant in the summit. So yes, I think that anything with Yasser Zaki is going to be one of my favorites. And then like some really surprising topics like supported employment, learning from Pignoni, from Able Minds about supported employment, and just like meeting young, excited, enthusiastic people who are inspired by what they do and really live their mission. I find that just so invigorating and energizing for me. We all have really hard days as entrepreneurs. Like I've had a couple recently that are really tough. And by talking to people like that, it just reminds me that actually, I used to have that much energy, and this is why they're doing it. And it really does rub off. Their energy is really infectious.
I think it's incredible to see people doing such innovative work inside the NDIS, breaking out of the stock standard mold. And you're 100% right. The way that Pignoni was managing supported employment, and his passion behind, fitness and employment and how they work together, and really empowering people to make better choices and to utilize their funds and to be able to step out of the mold that they had been, put themselves in sometimes, or the industry had put them in, was really powerful to hear him walk through all that.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's talk about your plans and goals for 2025, Paul. What have you got planned that you want to share with people? What are you looking at that you're happy to share with everyone about your goals for next year?
Oh, my goals for next year. Well, many of our listeners have joined me at our summit that we had early this year in May, and also our summit that was gone just recently in October in the southwest of WA. And I'm pleased to announce that we have almost finalized details for our next business development summit, which will be happening in the first half of the year. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The Business Development Summit has proved to be such a pivotal point for so many businesses that we've decided to make it part of our regular rotation, and really deep diving for several days, not just in a learning experience, but in a collaborative way, in a mastermind to solve problems. And it's just been absolutely phenomenal, the results that have been coming out of it. So for me, a big part of my year has been revolved around helping businesses connect to that summit. We also just launched a new program within Profitable Provider, which is helping providers to become so much more accessible to the community and to be visible. And it's we've got a couple of collaborations, which I can't go into right now, that are happening there. But safe to say that Profitable Provider is no longer just a coaching program. It is really about growing your business and having a exponential mindset. And as Yasser Zaki said so well, having that blue ocean strategy for how you grow a business. And if there's one thing that I love, it's growing businesses and seeing good people do amazing work. And we've put together quite a few things to help people be able to do that.
Amazing.
I
think
talk
that's
about
really exciting.
Summit, but one of my highlights this year, Tania, was actually being at your SIL Summit. Could you tell us a little bit about SIL Summit and what that might look like going forward, if you could spill the beans a little bit for us?
Yeah, the SIL Summit was great this year. We did 3 SIL Summits. We did Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. We had 287 people across the 3 events. Didn't quite hit 300. I was hoping, but we got 287. Um, and it was really great. I had a great time. It was the first time me running a 1 day event. And I think it was very well received. And so, yeah, we've decided to, everyone told me running an MVP of 3 was crazy, because most people were like, can you do half a day? Shouldn't you do a 1 day event once? And I was like, no, we'll do 3.
Yep.
And then, so that's my MVP was 3 events. And so next year we're doing 5 SIL Summits in May: Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth. And then we're going to do a national SIL Summit in September in somewhere in Queensland. And the idea is that the state-based will really focus on the state-based requirements and get you together with state-based people. And then the national summit will be 2 days of intensive learning to bring everyone together to redefine a benchmark of what supported accommodation should look like in Australia. And so I'm really excited by that. We've booked in most of the venues, and we will be releasing early bird tickets very soon. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for the SIL Summit. I'm really excited to bring everyone together again. And, I wasn't actually going to run events because I didn't want to run an events company. That's really not what I wanted to do. But the feedback from people who attended, the feedback that really stuck with me was that someone that I really trust and admire said to me, what today brought was really the sense of leading the sector to greatness, to being better, to being that 1% better. And really, that is what I want to do. I want to lead people to do better in the space. And if doing a 1 day summit can facilitate that and can help lead the space, I wouldn't call myself an NDIS leader. I'm a business leader inside my business because I'm the owner. But as you said in one of our podcasts, Paul, that, if someone follows you, you're a leader. So if by running these events, it makes me a disability leader and people in the space follow what I'm talking about, and we can use quality systems and processes to improve the lives of business owners, then I'm all for that. And I think the more people I get to talk to in person, the more people who buy into the whole idea that quality and compliance is more than passing audit. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. I really feel like SIL's going to be really hard next year. And I feel like having these meetings booked in, having dates booked in, that it's really going to be a way for people to get ongoing support and guidance, to really feel supported going through a tough time. So as well as having the SIL Summits, we've got the state-based ones in May, the National Summit in September. We're releasing a new podcast in January called Psilosophy, and it's all about SIL. And so that is sponsored. We have a major sponsor who I won't announce right now. I'll wait for the cash to hit the bank. And they will be the sponsor of the summits and the podcast. So I'm really looking forward to that and bringing more information to SIL providers as things become announced in the regulatory framework from next year. So yeah, that's my summits and the SIL stuff for next year. I'm also doing a series of International Women's Day events in March, which I'm really excited about. I've just locked in speakers in Sydney, only 40 people, very exclusive on Sydney Harbour for a beautiful breakfast, and some really inspirational speakers around the theme for International Women's Day is Accelerate Action. It's all around inclusivity and reaching equality. And I'm really excited to run an event. It's a charity event. All profits will go to the International Women's Day charity. But I'm really excited for that, to bring together a hand-picked room of amazing people. And again, for me, it's so exciting to be in those rooms full of amazing people that I feel so honored to be able to bring those people together and facilitate that, but also just the learnings for me is amazing. So that's a little bit about what I've got planned for next year.
Just a little bit. That's just a little bit you got planned for next year. I'm going to ask for a bit more information about the Provider Collective. These events have been absolutely amazing operating. Is it Gold Coast? I think you've got like 11 locations, isn't it, where they're operating?
Yeah. Yep, got 11 locations a month. We started the week after the SIL Summit. We started in September. It was a
Yep.
disaster, to tell you the truth. We started in September in 12 locations. One dropped off, so we're down to 11 locations. We run them in 4 locations in Sydney, 4 locations in Melbourne, 2 locations in the Gold Coast, and 1 location in Brisbane every month. And we've had 2,800 people through those events.
Wow. Yeah.
And we're hoping to hit 10,000 providers next year coming to those events. And the Provider Collective isn't a networking event. It is about working on your business, not in your business. And it's for business leaders to learn and grow together. And I'm really passionate about this. I'm 1 year into my PhD at the moment, and my first year has been looking at success factors for small and medium businesses in general. I'm then going to go on to how do we look at that with NDIS providers? How do we learn from that as NDIS providers? My first year is being business success. And one of the key things that I've learned from all of the reading that I've done is that one of the main success factors is your network. And I don't mean the people that you go to networking events for, but your community, the people you surround yourself with, can be the difference between your business making it and not, in a big way. And so I'm trying to really facilitate a community. I'd love it to be across Australia. We're aiming for 22 locations by July. And I really want to have a place. I would love it to be in every city where a provider can come and work on their business, meet other providers, and really get to know each other, and not refer clients to each other. It's not a biz dev thing.
Yep.
It's really around how do we strengthen our businesses and how do we collaborate in more meaningful ways. And so, yes, we have a topic every month, a different topic to learn. We have a local provider present about their business and their challenges, and then we brainstorm it together. And it's really a place to have deeper conversations and deeper connections. And the idea of a collective is that, yes, there might be an expert at the front of the room, whether that be me or Paul or any of the people we have on our podcast could be the expert. But the idea is that everyone in that room is an expert in something. And collectively, we have all the answers and all the resources we need. And so it's tapping into that collective network, that collective knowledge and wisdom to really improve the whole sector. There's no problem that we can't face together, but we need to be collective in our approach. And so that's brand new. It started in September. We've done an MVP from September till January, and in February the Provider Collective kicks off under its new branding with its new way of doing things. And that's run in partnership with providers. So we've got a partnership with different providers in each state who run the events. They host the events. We do the organising, the speakers. We organise the behind the scenes, and they rock up and facilitate these amazing groups. We've had such amazing feedback, like our wonderful hosts in Geelong, Coco Support Services. They are just rocking it. It's just amazing what they've achieved. Luke from Palos has been doing amazing work in Mornington Peninsula. And everyone, all of our hosts have just been spectacular in cultivating a community. And I'm really excited to see what that looks like. I've got 100 ideas of where it could go and what it could become. And our MVP was 11 events. And my team again were like, couldn't we have run one? But I was like, no, we'll start with 11 because we want to get to 100. So starting with one would be enough of an MVP. But it's been a bit chaotic, and my team have been a bit overworked. So we're trying to be a bit more organised next year. I've got schedules done and trying to get things a little bit more organised so it's not such a frantic pace in my office. Although something tells me that as soon as we get that sorted, there'll be another idea and it'll be just as frantic.
There'll be something else to pop up for them to work on. Absolutely.
Have to keep them busy. Got to keep people employed, right?
That's it. Keep everything exciting. Always exciting all the time.
Yeah. I'm really excited to hear the things that you're working on too, Paul. So tell me, how has the Profitable Provider Group gone this year? What are your highlights from that group? What are some learnings and case studies of clients' success that you can share from attending your programs this year?
Look, Profitable Provider started out as sort of just this one-to-one coaching process that we're taking people through, and it quickly evolved over the last year or so to be a mastermind of providers who are all sort of in a similar area, and we have sort of leveled providers, so you're working with providers at a similar point to where you're at. And what that's allowed us to do is really develop a roadmap for a provider and be able to say, right, here's where you're at, here's where you want to be. We're going to develop that North Star so we know exactly where you're going. And here are the milestones that we're going to hit along the way. Because I think for a lot of people, they're coming into the NDIS and they're building their business. And it's quite often that I hear, I never thought my business would grow this big, but here I am at the helm of a $3 million NDIS provider business trying to figure out what to do next, because all I wanted to do was support people. And so we've been able to help a number of providers identify where they're at, and as the business grows and expands, backfill and pre-fill all those systems and processes inside. So as they grow, people don't slip through the cracks. Because one of the key issues we found is that as providers grew, their systems weren't developing with their business. And we want to make sure that as people grow, they're really seeing the entire business grow, not just the numbers on the page. Because when you just throw more clients into a business, as can sometimes happen very quickly, everything gets stressed, people get stressed, staff retention becomes a major problem, service delivery starts to fade. And we want to see people that are really good at what they do provide fantastic support for a long time. And so we've been able to build out that roadmap, which is tailored to each person, but we work on it in two different formats, both one-to-one and in a mastermind format, to solve problems fast, which has been absolutely brilliant. We've been able to also bring that around and have some of our team are now running sessions because they have refined some of these things. And I'm going to be honest, like, you've had the Provider Collective, and I know that Cedar from my sister has actually presented at a couple of those now. She has grown a business that providers should take a look at, because she's built such an amazing business which helps a lot of people. She has, diversified really well. Her systems and processes are growing with her business on a regular basis. And it's amazing to see how people like Cedar are growing on a regular basis, because they're doing the right things at the right time. They're not getting lost and overwhelmed, but they have the right people around them. And I love that when someone grows and develops, they can be generous and share information like she is at the Provider Collectives.
Yeah, she's actually one of our hosts in the Gold
Yeah.
Coast. So she runs an event every month for us, which is, just amazing. And she's incredibly organized and runs them,
Very
like
organized.
clockwork. Very organized, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. So a tricky question for you, maybe, Paul, is what do you think next year will bring for NDIS providers?
Oh, that's a juicy one, isn't it? Because we've had so much information and everyone felt the sky was falling on October 3rd, and here we are now. I think that providers, or the core thing that I'm working with providers, is staying nimble, running a lean business, but being prepared and being where the information is. And particularly as we talk about SIL, and your SIL Summit has been so impactful for a lot of people, that's where a lot of the initial change seems to be happening for SIL and support coordinators alike. It's really about staying at the forefront of the information that's coming out, and not, to be honest, not getting your news headlines from Facebook groups is probably a really good start to make sure that's not where you're getting information from. But I think that by probably July, we're going to really start to see some of these changes actually start to take shape, have a very clear, as clear as the NDIS will get, outline of what will be happening, and we're going to start to see a bit of a separation in the market, to be honest. It's going to get harder for some people, and as you've heard me say before, when it gets hard, less people do it, which means good providers who operate well will stand up and really start to lead in this space. So I encourage people to be as connected as possible and to understand their information and to be able to grow your business in a way that these changes are par for the course. How do these changes make you a better provider and be able to support people better? So there's a few things coming next year, and I'm not going to pull out the crystal ball and say exactly what they will be and when, but there's definitely a few things on the card. And when we talk about the idea of registration and the government rolling that out, I would be preparing right now if you are considering that registration should be on the cards for you. Give Tania a call, just really quickly, just side note, a little bit of help there. Give Tania a call, because as these things start to happen, I think it's going to be quite pivotal about how this gets rolled out. And I would want to be ahead of the curve as a provider.
Yeah.
What do you see, Tania? I mean, I'm talking to someone who's currently doing their PhD pretty much on business leadership and the NDIS, realistically. Like, what do you see happening with all your information around SIL and compliance and what's happening over the next 12 months?
Look, I wish I knew. I think it's going to be a tough year for many. I feel
Yeah.
like there is going to be a lot of thick and fast changes thrown at
Mm-hmm.
providers, and there's going to be a lot of change, and they're going to need to deal with that change and pivot and grow. I've had, so many phone calls since the 3rd of October around the in and
Mm.
out list of how to pivot businesses and what this looks like, and should I register? Can I do this? Can I not? And all of it is just this lack of clarity. So I think we're going to see more clarity on the changes, and that's going to be in
Yep.
favor of some and not in favor of others. And some
100%.
people are going to have it harder, and some people are going to have it easier. I think it's going to get easier for allied health. I think the
Mm-hmm.
writing's on the wall that they're going to be an easier process. We're going to see early childhood supports leave the scheme to go to these foundation supports.
Mm-hmm.
I really think we're going to see a whole lot of changes for SDA and SIL providers specifically.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's okay. I think we're going to get through it. I think it's just going to be a year of flux and change. And the
Yeah.
better your systems are, the better you're going to be prepared for doing whatever it takes. But I do think we'll see a lot of providers leave the market because
Yeah.
not everyone likes change, and not every
Mm-hmm.
business has been set up in a way that can adapt quickly to change. And so I think we'll see people leave the market. We'll see consolidation of other businesses
Yep.
together. Um, and I really hope that the communities that both you and I are trying to create and others are trying to create will really be the difference that helps some people keep going and find the strength to
Mm.
go through some of the crap they're going to have to work through, wade through the mud for a while.
Yep.
I feel like very much at the moment we're a bit like in a COVID bubble. Like we know that something's coming and it's in China. It hasn't hit Australia's shores yet. We're not really sure how to deal with it, but we know that it's coming, and we're all just sitting watching the news, praying for a different outcome. And I really feel that once it's here, it'll be painful for a bit, but then we'll be able to look back on it and feel like we're stronger out the other end.
Yeah.
People who will get through are the people who have a little bit of cash reserves, who've got some good processes and systems, who have diversified a little bit, and have a strong network to support them mentally and emotionally. Um, and so that's what I would be trying to do is set those things up if you don't have them already.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think it's going to be a tough year, but I'm here for it, and I'm ready to support people through it. And I feel like it's the reckoning in many ways. But I think it's a positive thing. I think we can see it as a positive
Yeah.
thing. And
100%.
I was thinking the other day, I met someone and they said, "Oh, I used to be X as a job, and now I'm an NGOs provider, and now my supports are taken off the list, so I'm going to have to go back to my other profession." And then I have a very good friend, maybe one of my best friends, and she was a plan manager for like 10 years, and she's left to do something completely different. And I caught up with her at last and was like, "How's life post plan management?" And she was like, I'm fine now. Like, it was tough. She was made redundant. She was a part of a
Yeah.
takeover. She was made redundant. It was very stressful. She didn't know what else she could do after doing it for so long. But she's found something really joyful, and she really
Awesome.
enjoys her post NDIS journey. And I kind of feel like there is other going to be opportunities for people outside NDIS. And if this is too stressful and this isn't their passion, if this isn't what they're here for, then they're going to be welcomed back to whatever is next for them. And I think that that's okay
Yeah.
too.
You're 100% right, because people, I think, you're right, we have been in a bit of a bubble around what's happening with NDIS and all the stuff that's is it in, is it not in, is it, what's the information say? Oh, let's dilute it. Oh, there's nothing changed yet, but they're just talking about change. And it's put a lot of people on edge, and a lot of people thinking now about the options that they have available to them. One of the sessions we did at our Thrive Summit just gone was actually around, as a stable provider who's here for the long term, actually partnering with some of those providers that are looking at moving on because they're just not, they've decided that the industry is probably going to be no longer for them, or registration's not for them, so that for those participants and those staff, there can be continuity of service and of supports, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities, but there's also going to be a lot of probably heartache for people in the NDIS around their supports and how they're operating. So there's opportunities for strong businesses to operate really well, opportunities for businesses that maybe aren't in it for the long run with the changes that are happening, to partner with people to ensure that their business actually continues in some format or another. I heard a fantastic quote the other day, which is just really simply, when a bird lands on a branch, it doesn't trust the branch if it breaks, it trusts its wings. And so if you're a provider, you don't need to sit there, trust and rely on the NDIS, because things will always change. But trusting on your business skill, on your network, that's the thing that will actually take you through. And as things change, you can continue to develop your business, and you have that diversification. You understand the principles behind business growth, no matter what that looks like. And yeah, as you say, we're going to see a bit of a parting of the waters for providers, about people that are going, I'm sticking it out no matter what happens, and I'm going to pivot, I'm going to run lean. And people that are just going, you know what, this is just too hard. What are my options? So yes, I think it'll be a very interesting 2025, Tanya.
Yeah, and I think I just want to put out there that it's okay for people to change their minds and decide that this isn't for
Yeah,
them. Like,
100%.
I had a I've had a lot of issues in the past with, they call it kill your darlings, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
okay to say goodbye to something that you've worked in. You don't need to be in a business forever. The success criteria for a business isn't how long you've run it. It could be if that's how you classify it, but for me, the definition of success in a business, for me personally, is what can I learn from it? So just remembering that if you are exiting this business or any business, that it's the lessons that you learn, the people that you've got to know, the
yeah,
what you've contributed in your time is what matters, and not to feel like just because if they've removed sound therapy from the NGS and you're in sound therapy or flotation devices or anything on the out list, it doesn't mean you're a failure if you decide that NGIS isn't for you. You don't need to pivot to another NGIS business. This could have been where you earn your training wheels. This could be where you, bite your teeth or cut your teeth on a business for the first time.
yeah.
When I ran my first business, I probably should have sold it 3 years earlier and would have made a ton more money. But I couldn't let go. And I really feel like that is something with NGS providers or with people in general who are heart-centered, that the business is your baby and you feel like you
Mm,
can't let go. But honestly, there is life outside of this business. I know we've wrapped our identities in our business.
yeah.
My business has my name on it. Literally, it's my right now. And with Provider Plus was my baby, and walking away from that was so hard.
Yeah,
But there's life beyond it, and maybe a better life. So if this is the end of your journey, then that is okay as well. It's okay to say goodbye and to start something else. And if that is setting up to, be a personal trainer or to learn a new skill and bring value somewhere else, then I think that is okay. And it's not something you should be worried about or ashamed about, that you'll find your feet again and continue doing awesome things.
100%. Look, you've hit it exactly there, because I think you're right. People often think that one thing is the be all and end all, but there are so many options for so many people. And, maybe if you went into business just wanting to provide support, there may be an option of a role in a business that's doing really well to go back to doing that and manage a team that you look after, or, go back to actually providing support. I mean, goodness, I've been self-employed since 2005, and I can't tell you how many times I've thought, you know what, turning up at 9 and going home at 5, it sounds really good right now. But there's all these other options that people can look at. And so that's fantastic. I think what we've got is a lot of options heading forward as providers over the next 12 months to be able to do so many different things. And as the changes happen, if you are in a position to do this, I would 100% lean into it. And, Tania and I, we've got two different businesses, but we collaborate together so much. And you can find businesses that you collaborate with and know that, Action and Intent, Profitable Provider, we're here. Tania Gomez Consulting and the Provider Collective, we're actually all here to support you and your growth in your business. So encourage you, whichever way you're taking this next year, lean on the support like Tania and myself. Get a hold of this podcast, listen to the episodes on a regular basis, and you're going to have a much better time being ahead of the curve rather than just waiting for everything to hit you.
Yeah, agreed. Great. Well, now next year Next year we are back in 2025 every fortnight on Tuesdays. I'm really excited to be back. We'll be back for season 6. And I think I worked out that by the end of next year, we'll be at like 70 something episodes. So that's really exciting. I think it was 78, maybe. I can't remember. But yeah, really looking forward to coming back next year. We would really like you to all like, subscribe, share, follow, all of those things. We only ask once a year as our Christmas present. If you can share this with one friend, like it, subscribe. It really does help other people find us and help us continue to do this amazing work. We've now done 5 seasons, no sponsorship, out of the love and sheer passion for what we do, sharing this with you. So please continue to share, like, and follow if you're getting value out of our podcast.
So good. Hey, everybody, thank you for an amazing year. Thank you for listening, for sharing what you have done, and look forward to next year. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. We're going to have a great time. We're going to keep providing as much support to you throughout this podcast as humanly possible. And we want to get the people in front of you to help you with your business, just like we love to do. Tania, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And I really can't wait to see you in person next year, Paul, and come along to your summit. And it's been a blast. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I love hanging out with you when we get to catch up and work with providers in amazing places. We're going to do this a lot more next year. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Profitable NDIS Provider Podcast with Tania Gomez and Paul Bryan. We hope you found today's episode informative and valuable. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating, and share it with others who could benefit from our insights. Until next time, keep thriving.